What's happening, fight fans? Boxing and Bagels returns for our year-end 2024 Boxing Awards. And who better to have than our in-guest studios? No, not in-guest studios. Why would I say that? We have the ever so popular Kevin Iole from KevinIole.com and Kevin Iole YouTube channel. Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. An honor to be on with Coach Diz.
And of course, how can we forget Coach Diz sitting there in the middle as we're going? Well, last night we had the big unification battle. Well, no, defense for Oleg. What is going on today? I think it's because it's live. So Alexander Usyk against Tyson Fury to kind of decide who was going to be either fighter of the year or best heavyweight in the division. And were you surprised, Kevin, about the outcome last night?
Well, if you saw my preview, my betting preview, I had 3 plays. I said Usyk minus $1.50 to win. I said over 10.5 rounds at minus $2. And I said Usyk plus 70 by decision to win. So I was 3-0 in that one. So no, not surprised. I mean, you know, I thought it was going to be a good fight. Tyson Fury is a terrific fighter. And I kind of thought going into the fight, hey, look, Fury is very good. It's not going to take a huge step forward for him to be able to change the outcome and win the fight. But I like Usyk. I think, you know, Usyk has the one thing that, in my opinion, George, is Fury's kryptonite at that level, which is the conditioning. And you know that Usyk is going to get better as fights go along, and Tyson's not. And I was really disappointed, you know, to see the love handles on Tyson in this fight. You know, he supposedly was in Malta for 12 weeks, right? And, you know, I mean, the announcers in the pre-fight buildup, that's all they talked about. And he had the Spartan training camp, and he was in all this great shape. And then you come out and you see 5th round, he was kind of gassing. And, you know, I mean, he didn't totally gas, but he certainly did not have the same energy at the end of the fight that he had at the beginning. While Usyk looked like he could have boxed 24 rounds. And I think at the end of the day, you're talking about a really good, really high IQ boxer in Alexander Usyk who has elite conditioning. And you're talking about a very good boxer who doesn't have elite conditioning in Tyson Fury. And at the end of the day, that might have been the difference.
Did you think during the fight, though, Tyson made some adjustments that actually worked in his favor as opposed to going back to the ropes? He was coming a little bit forward more than he did in the last fight.
Well, when he started coming forward, I thought that was the reason that he came in at 280. I thought he was going to try to put his body weight on Usyk, make Usyk carry the body weight, you know, kind of make it a difficult physical fight for Usyk that way. But, you know, that was kind of a gambit because, you know, I think Fury's best way to win that fight was to use that jab he has. When he steps into that jab, you know, an 85-inch reach, that is a power punch. And when he steps into it and he's, you know, he's 7 feet away from you, and then boom, he hits you with that big jab. It's like, you know, it's a shock to the system. And if he kind of bullied him and was on top of him, then, you know, he's not able to use that jab as much. You know, I thought when he used his size early on that he was doing a pretty good job, but I just didn't think that, you know, he was able to maintain any kind of momentum he had because he didn't have the gas tank.
Coach Diz, you watched the fight also last night. We were texting back and forth about what you thought. This surprised you at all a little bit?
It surprised me a little bit because I had Fury to win by decision. I just thought he would stay off the ropes and probably be in better shape.
That wasn't the case.
You know, after the 5th round, he was going down, and that's, you know, I was like, oh, that's not good. But Usyk, you know, he's just one of, if not one of the greatest of all times, that George, that you said the other day to me. And then when I started looking at his, you know, resume, I'm like, ooh, it is kind of deep and it's kind of long. So, you know, I was surprised with that fight.
Yeah, where do you rate Usyk to now?
Where do I rate him pound for pound?
Well, no, where are you rating him amongst all-time greats? Because as far as fighter, and then not necessarily heavyweight division, I don't know if you can even do that right now, but just all-time greats as a fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you have to say he's, you know, well, let's say the top 100 is the elite of all time, right? I think Usyk has put himself in the top 25 for sure. Is he top 10? I would say not yet, you know, but you can't really effectively rate somebody until their career is over. But let's look at what he's done. You know, he was 3-35-15 as an amateur. He was an Olympic gold medalist at heavyweight. He goes into the pros. He wins the undisputed cruiserweight championship, and he wins all. I put this in my column, but not a lot of people talk about it. He wins all those fights on the road. He beats Marco Huck, who was born in Berlin. He beats Britas, who's from Latvia, in Riga, Latvia. He beats Murat Kassiev, who's from Moscow, in Moscow. He beat all those guys on the road. He beats Anthony Joshua in Tottenham, which is just outside of where Joshua is from. He's never had the home field advantage. He's always been a road warrior. They used to call Glenn Johnson the road warrior. There's no greater road warrior in modern boxing than Alexander Usyk. I think he is up there. I think Alexander Usyk is challenging Floyd Mayweather right now as the greatest fighter of the 21st century. I think that is a fair.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I made up my mind on that, and Usyk is still active, and we'll see. Floyd ran the table. Floyd was able to do things, move up weight classes that Usyk can't do given his size. But I'll tell you what, guys, I think Usyk is proving he is an all-time great fighter, no doubt about it.
Diz, where do you rank him also? As far as when you, because we are a little biased also towards the Floyd Mayweather of our generation, because it just was something we really got into. We got behind Floyd Mayweather when he was on his run. That was an incredible run. I mean, in fact, Kevin, I think you were accused of being like a fan for Mayweather, but we legitimately saw it right in front of our own eyes how he ran the table.
I was the first person to call Mayweather pound for pound number one. In Ring Magazine one year, I did a piece, and I was the bunch of people did pieces who's pound for pound number one, and I was the only one of those people that picked Mayweather number one at the time.
Okay.
Yes, I think Usyk right now is pound for pound number one overall career. Like Kevin said, you have to wait till his career's over, but it's close. He's creeping up to Mayweather now. That's Kevin. I never thought about that. Then when you mentioned that, I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't think I gave Usyk enough credit. And that's honest truth, because I think really when the pandemic hit, he kind of got pushed away a little bit, because I think he was on a real good run there before that, and then it kind of pushed him away a little bit. Then the war in Ukraine kind of pushed him even further back. So at 38 years old, he kind of might have missed a couple of years there where he really could have made a good run. Do you think age will have something to do with this, Kevin, at the end of the day?
Well, I mean, hey, look, he's going to be 38, and I think that is a big issue, right? He's not going to be able to have too many more fights like this, I would not think, right? Both after the first fight and after yesterday, he was gassed when it was over, right? I mean, you saw the wear and tear. He had enough to do what he had to do in the fight, but I don't know. He was worn out. There's no doubt about it. I just think activity is the one thing holding Usyk back, right? He's now 23-0. Floyd had 50 fights, right? That is the big difference, where Floyd was more active in his career. Now, Usyk, of course, had a bigger amateur career, and Usyk, I don't know if people know this. I mean, he fought Arthur Beterbiev 4 times in the amateurs. I mean, he fought a ton. I was going to say a bad word, but I'm not going to say that word. But he fought a lot of really good guys as an amateur, including Sean Porter, as we know, which is incredible. But Usyk has always been fighting elite competition, and that's what he's done as a pro. And what is his worst? Think about this. What was his worst fight at heavyweight? His fight against Chaz Witherspoon, the worst heavyweight he fought, was his worst fight.
I still think Dubois was his worst fight, because I think he got knocked out. That's my opinion. I'll stick with that. I will stick with that, because that was on the belt line. He got knocked down. So, go
back to the beginning of that fight and watch the referee when he puts the hand up. He goes, "This is good here," right? And where he says it's good, and then where that punch actually hit. It's close, right? It's close. But I also think Usyk is one of those guys, that, hey, even if he was hurt, like, he got hurt yesterday by a couple, the elbow, you saw him pointing the elbow and things, right? Like, like that. I think he's a gamer, right? Had he felt like that was not a low blow, and he had to get up, if the referee said that's a knockdown, he would have popped up. And I think that's how he is. He took the time and, milked it to give himself the recovery. But he's a gamer.
Okay. Well, let's, after this fight, Daniel Dubois had probably the worst call out in history.
Yeah.
Well, the way he interrupted, how crazy was that?
It's just weird. Someone who they've already fought, I think he's getting better. Daniel Dubois is getting better. I think he's getting more confident. So, Coach, let me ask you, do you think he fights Daniel Dubois next?
I think he has to. There's really nothing else out there, really.
Yeah.
I mean, unless he goes down, but he's not. But it's really nothing else. It's Dubois, and that's it.
Kev, what do you think? That'd be the only option right now?
Well, I don't think it's the only option because Dubois is fighting Joseph Parker in February. So if Joseph Parker wins that fight, which I would favor Dubois, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that that Joe Parker wins that fight. So I certainly think we will see Usyk fight the winner of that fight. I think would make the most sense. You know who I wouldn't mind see Usyk fight if he continues. Now, to me, I think it would have been perfect if he would have rode off in the sunset yesterday. What else does he have to prove, right? Because he's not going to fight anybody now who's the equal of Tyson Fury. It doesn't make sense for him to fight Moses Itama at some point. No, Itama's 19 years old. He's 38. There's no, and he'd have to wait for Itama to get up there and get ready. G. Caballel, like what do people, care about that fight for? But if he was going to fight more than once more, maybe the fight would be Zhilei Zhang. Can he beat the big Chinese giant? I mean, that might be a fun fight for him. But Zhang, we know, is a big hard puncher, and he kind of reminds me of a late career George Foreman because he's very slow, but when he hits you, it's like you got hit by a Mack truck.
They could actually promote that pretty well, like David versus Goliath type of fight.
And Zhang's got a great, Usyk is, I don't know if you've ever talked to him. He is a really funny guy. He is he really very good, when he's in fight mode, he doesn't show it as much, but Usyk is a very funny, quick-witted guy. And Zhang is a good guy too. And I think that, they could have a fun promotion with the two of them.
So let's see if we can push that a little bit. Let's see if we can push that down the pipe. But we are here for the 2024 awards, Kevin. And this is why I wanted to get you on, because who else to go to than someone who is an expert on this panel other than Coach Diz?
Other than Coach Diz, is how we're going to say.
Yeah, other than Coach Diz.
Well, we could have had Jersey Jay-Z on here, and we chose not to do that.
Yeah, he's busy. He's busy chasing those drones. He's busy chasing those drones in Jersey right now.
Is Jersey Joe a UFO guy?
Oh, he's a UFO guy. I could tell you that.
Now it is, because they're flying all.
They're all over. Yeah, they're all over Jersey. But speaking of Coach Diz, what we're going to do first is go for the Trainer of the Year. And I had your picks all prior to this. So what we're going to do now is have the Trainer of the Year of 2024. And this was actually all of our picks. So this is going to be who it is. And that is Robert Garcia gets our 2024 Trainer of the Year. And Kevin, why Robert Garcia? This is not the first time for Robert Garcia either.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Garcia is one of the best trainers in the history of boxing, but you don't win because you're one of the best trainers in the history. You win for what you did in this year. And, he had Jesse Rodriguez, who to me shot way up the pound for pound list. Jesse Rodriguez beats Estrada, then he beats Guevara, both knockouts. He also had Virgil Ortiz. And I think, Robert has a lot of really good guys and has moved them very smartly. And I think you look at the work that he has done in 2024, and really all along, he builds guys and then he peaks them and he gets the most out of the guys. And I kind of thought with what Garcia did, Jesse, Bam Rodriguez being his star pupil, and Rodriguez just shows what a great trainer, that Robert is, because he just developed a full overall game. To me, I just think that, you could have gone for Sergey Lapin, who trains Usyk. There was a number of people that had good years, but I just think when you really break it down and you look at it, Robert Garcia made the biggest difference for the most guys.
And I'll say, when you first told me Sergey Lapin, I thought, Robert is so consistent. I don't know how many other fighters Lapin had. So that's why I thought when you said, hey, I'm going to go Robert Garcia, I thought that might have been the pick to go to. Coach, did you too went with Robert Garcia? Now you've been following him for years.
Well, because of, having Fury, Usyk, but then I'm thinking about it. Garcia had more fighters, and Garcia's been around the game for such a long time. The whole family, great. I like Mikey Garcia, but Robert Garcia is just, one of the best of all time.
Yeah, you can't go away from consistency, I think. Although, yes, an American, here in, I believe he's still in Texas. Is he in Texas still?
No, he's in Oxnard, California.
Oxnard. Yeah. When you have that consistency, we see it here a lot in the United States. Maybe we don't see Lappin as much. So that's why I chose Robert Garcia also. But the next award is the knockout of the year, which we had different. We had this one different, and this our Coach Diz and mine is a little bit obscure, but it still was it was actually pretty funny. But the knockout of the year, I'm going to go with the knockout of the year first. So Kevin Iole's knockout of the year 2024 is as follows. Now, Kevin, why I say that was a different knockout than ours, because that was unconventional knockout. That was a body shot knockout that you got on there. And why did you take that?
Junto Nakatani, one of the best fighters in the world too, and a guy that I think maybe at the end of 2025 we'll see in a huge fight with Naoya Inoue. That would be a massive fight if that fight ever occurred. Two really good, talented guys, but Nakatani's kind of fighting in Inoue's shadow. Inoue is the guy that's won multiple undisputed titles. Killing everybody, looking like one of the greatest fighters who ever lived. I mean, I think when we talk about the best of all time, we've got to put Naoya Inoue in there. But Nakatani comes up against Vincent Astrolabio in that fight. And, Astrolabio was no great shakes. It wasn't like there was any doubt who was going to win the fight. But Astrolabio is a tough veteran guy who can give you rounds, and he's going to go a long time. And Nakatani just with that body shot right to the solar plexus, good night, Irene, and he was out. And to me, that was like such a definitive ending against a solid fighter. And I just kind of felt like when you look at the year and you see everything else that occurred, the Ray Ford knockout of Holomatov, especially it was dramatic, right? Late in the fight where Ford was about to lose, 6 or 7 seconds left. Ford was going to lose the fight by decision. He gets that knockout. There was the drama there, but I thought the oomph that we saw in that punch by Junto Nakatani just made the difference.
Okay, well, our knockout of the year is a little obscure, like I said. It's not what you would think of a regular knockout, but certainly would have to be knockout of the year in our books. Definitely knockout of the year there. Prince Bahadi, Lucas Bahadi, and Ashton Silva. Kevin, I don't know if you saw that knockout. I'm sure.
I was watching the fight. Yeah.
But my God, I mean, you talk about a guy who was hyped up by Jake Paul, and he got knocked. He got his brakes beat off. That to me, when you fall face first like that, and I'm talking out, that to me was knockout of the year. Coach, what do you think?
Oh yeah, that was knockout of the year. I mean, I know. I mean, the way he fell down, I mean, that's something I look at and I start laughing too. But, you had other ones that were good. AJ versus Tabar. That was another one that could have been up there. But I just thought that this one was just a quick left hook, right hand, and boom, right to the Pacquiao.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was either like a Greg the Hammer Valentine / Manny Pacquiao knockout straight down, and that was it. It was over, curtains. Kev, do you see Silva coming back from that knockout anytime soon?
I'll tell you, Silva's a good, talented fighter. There's no doubt. I think he's blown by Jake Paul, right? But I think he is a talented fighter. And mentally, I think he's a strong kid. So I think he can come back from it, but it's not going to require physical talent. It's going to require that. And he's got to realize that. So that'll be interesting. We'll find out what Ashton Silva's made of when he comes back after that.
And of course, two of the last 3 awards that we have. Obviously, Fight of the Year has got to be one of them. And Kevin, me and Coach Diz all agreed on the same one here. But this was the first fight of the 2 fights that they did have. The Fight of the Year 2024 Zapata Brand Fight of the Year. actually a great fight. The first Tyson Usyk fight. And last night, obviously, we had the rematch that wasn't as exciting, I think, but because the first fight had the stakes all on the line there. Kevin, your choice for that and why?
You know, I mean, when you pick fight of the year, I think who you beat has to matter, right? It's, you know, if you're fighting somebody that's not that good, you know, it's easy to hit them. It's not as difficult, and you know, so you can make a great fight. When you're fighting Alexander Usyk, or when you're fighting Tyson Fury, two guys that are good overall fighters, great overall fighters, they're not that easy to hit. And to put that kind of that pace on that they put on, you know, you're talking two huge men that are in there with a fast pace and drama and back and forth. I mean, that fight had it all. You know, you were talking about Usyk, you know, had to come back and almost knock Fury out in the 9th round. But we forget that Fury was ahead after 8 rounds on the cards. It looked like, you know, if you would have stopped the fight and we would have had this conversation after 8 rounds and said, okay, who is going to win this fight? I think 90% of the people would have said Tyson Fury is going to win that fight. Usyk comes back down the stretch, and, you know, he turns it around in the 9th round with that knock, you know, it was called a knockdown, which correctly so.
Yes.
And I just thought that, you know, that the stakes in that fight made it big, the drama, the back and forth. And then Tyson Fury comes back and wins the 12th round. I mean, so, you know, it was just such a high energy back and forth action fight. I don't know how you couldn't pick that as fight of the year.
Coach, similar to what I was telling Kevin, the stakes were so high. That's obviously why you chose it to be fight of the year.
Yeah, you know, you had the, you know, the top of each of heavyweights up there, undefeated, you know, and going, you know, from the 1st round to the 8th round, like Kevin said, you know, Tyson Fury was winning the whole fight. Then he got hit with a little quick 1-2, and he was wobbled going back and forth to each ring post. And, you know, Usyk then just put it on for the rest of the fight. And then the 12th round, you have Tyson Fury try to sneak it out, but he couldn't. But it was just a great fight. I thought the whole atmosphere was good. It was a little long, but the atmosphere of the whole
the fight wasn't long. The card was long.
Yeah. Yep.
Those Saudi cards, I can't. It's hard for me, Kev. It's hard. I cannot sit there and watch that for that long. It doesn't. I don't know if the speed was so much. It was up this fight as much as maybe I just didn't. Maybe because I was anticipating.
Well, they just had a drummer playing instead of a full concert.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't as I don't know how to say. I wasn't as agitated this time as the other one, as the last couple. I didn't need any rap concerts in the middle of the boxing matches. So at least we got that done. But yes, I agree too. But definitely fight of the year 2024. There were a bunch of good fights too. So, but that one, due to the stakes, and you had the two top, and you had a unified, undisputed champion for a short period of time that you did have it. But you did have it, so it was important.
Don't you think Better Be a Bivol should be in there too as a fight?
You know what?
Deserves...
I'll tell you what. As good as that fight was, I thought it was. I wasn't as excited for that fight for some reason as I was. I think it's a Saudi thing too, though. So I know Tyson Fury, they were in Saudi too, but there was just something there. I was up for it when it was initially announced. Then as it came by a little bit, I thought, no, not so much. I don't know why. But ultimately, it could be up there. It's going to be in everybody's rankings as one of the best for this year.
Just one thing we didn't talk about when we were talking about the fight, Tyson and Usyk. What would you think Tyson's going to go now?
Oh yeah, I never thought that.
If he fights again, and I think he will, if he fights again, there's only one fight he takes. That's Anthony Joshua. There's there's no doubt. And while that fight has lost luster in the United States, and there'll be interest in that fight in the U.S., but it's not going to be the intense interest in the U.S. that it would have been, especially given that they will ignore the U.S. when they promote the fight, which is what these fight cards in Saudi happen. They do not promote to the U.S. But that is going to be an unbelievable event in the U.K., and that will be one of the great atmospheres in boxing history, because the Brit fans have wanted to see that fight for a long time, and they will be really, 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 really keyed up. And there might be a few beverages, going down, that night. And I should tell a story, like, one of the fights that I covered, this might have been in Wales. I can't remember. but it was Wales because it was Kessler and Calzaghe fight. I was in Cardiff, Wales for that, and you could see the stadium from our hotel. So I asked the person at the front desk. I said, "Is it safe to walk back from the stadium to the hotel, or can we, should we take a cab back?" And a person goes, "Oh, no, definitely safe." He goes, "Just be careful you don't trip over any of the drunk bodies laying in the street."
Well, that says a lot for them.
A Fury Joshua fight.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Klitschko had a very interesting statement during that press conference. Did you hear that?
Well, I know what he's talking about, but what are you?
I don't. Is there any chance, any shot, he comes back to fight Tyson Fury?
Well, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh brought that up before the fight, that he would love to see that fight. So we think about that fight happen in 2015. Fury dominated the fight. Then Klitschko loses to AJ in a great fight in 2017. He's been done. That's 7 years. We're going into 2025. It's going to be 8 years. What is the point of putting this man back in the ring at this stage? What does that prove? I don't think it proves anything, and I don't think it happens.
Okay, because he seemed pretty animate. That animate isn't the word. It seemed pretty like he wanted to break some news that he was getting back into the ring. And I'm thinking to myself, buddy, you were way beyond your prime.
How old is he again?
Well,
let's see. He fought in the '96 Olympics, so that that is 28 years ago, right? And so say he was 20. So,
he's got to be closing in on late 40s, early 50s. He has to. Because
I'll look him up while we're talking here.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would shock me if that happened, but the way it sounded from his mouth,
48. He's 48 right now.
48. So he's my age. Hey, that's not so bad. Now that I think about it, that's not so bad.
And given the fact that it probably won't happen until after March, would you not agree that that'd be 3 months from now? They haven't put the fight together. I would think that if that's the case, he's going to be 49 because he turns 49 in March.
I would say the only outside shot that happens is they do Joshua and Fury. Joshua beats Fury. The only outside shot. That's the only outside shot. And then I see them putting him. It sounds crazy, but Kevin, you also told me that Khamzat wouldn't fight Pereira. I think they're gonna fight.
Well, that's certainly that's the rumor that was out there. That is not done.
I heard another rumor. Izzy might fight him or wants to fight him.
Well, no, Izzy said he wanted to fight him. Izzy is fighting in Imavov in Saudi Arabia on February 1st. That should be an interesting fight. And Izzy said, he was surprised the way Khamzat looked against Robert Whittaker, and he would go. My guess is that Pereira and Khamzat is not happening, and I think I don't want to get into this any more than what I'm about to say. Khamzat has some personal issues, nothing to do with him, but that I don't think he can be fighting anytime soon. So I think we won't see him until later in the year.
Okay. And then we'll go to the second to last award, but obviously the biggest one. And this is absolutely a no-brainer. We all had the same here. The Fighter of the Year 2024, which, after last night actually secured it even more. Alexander Usyk proves once again to be the most dominant heavyweight in the world. Goes out, and Kevin, easy pick.
Easy pick. We were talking before the fight yesterday and saying, well, if Usyk lost, who would it be? But, Usyk went out there and he won it, in my mind, convincingly, no matter what Frank Warren, who has an investment in Tyson Fury, says, and, what Tyson says. I mean, I think if you look, even, the British reporters were saying that most of them said they thought that Usyk won the fight, that I saw out there, they tend to be biased in favor of Tyson Fury. It was a good fight, but Usyk won the fight fair and square. And you beat a guy like Tyson Fury, who's been undefeated in 35 pro fights. You beat him twice in dramatic fashion, in the first one, especially in a fight of the year. That makes you the man. And hey, look, he gave up 55 freaking pounds. And he, imagine, that'd be like Floyd Mayweather, 147 fighting a guy 202. Think about that, and, what Usyk did was remarkable. And I think clearly fight of the year.
Coach, same as you.
There's really nothing else that we could talk about with Usyk. He's did everything in this sport so far. He's fight of the year 2024.
And I lean towards Bam Rodriguez initially because he had a really good year. But then I looked again. When you start looking and diving deep into his resume, what Alexander Usyk has done, man, that's deep. That is deep. You cannot argue that.
Well, George, and when you look, just look at who he fought. So saying his resume is not fair because we're talking 2024. So at the beginning of 2024, Tyson Fury was way up almost everybody's pound for pound list. Top 5. Some people had him. I know there was somebody that had him number 1. I don't think that was right, but he was way up there on the pound for pound list. You look at who Bam Rodriguez fought, and I love Bam, and I have him number 5 in my pound for pound list. But Bam beat Juan Francisco Estrada, who was on the backside of it, and Pedro Guevara, who's not a super fighter. You turn around and you say Usyk beat Tyson Fury, a world-class pound for pound fighter, twice. I think that's the difference.
Well, I'm saying resume through the year. So I mean, I'm looking at, and now that you've put into that perspective, yeah, you really can. I really underestimated Alexander Usyk. I really did. And I apologize to him because just a great fighter, just all around a great fighter.
But yeah, I mean, to me, Usyk is one of those guys. You look at him and he's got great footwork. He's got great ring IQ. He knows how to box. He's a master of controlling distance. Don't you think that the distance control yesterday was the most important thing in the fight? He got inside that jab of Fury's, and he kind of took away a lot of Fury's. It's great to be 6'9" with an 85-inch reach, but when you have a guy right there in your grill and, in that range, and I just think Usyk is so smart in there that just, and he's fast for a big guy. He's got great conditioning. And as he showed in that first fight, he can crack. And
he can take a punch, but yeah, the jab was the most important thing of that Tyson, and he took that away from Tyson.
Yeah. Again, it wasn't that I was shocked that it happened, but I thought Tyson would be a different fighter, and he wasn't. He just wasn't. But as 2024 comes to a close here, there's a few things. What do you see on the horizon for boxing in a couple of areas, Kev? And Coach Diz, you could piggyback off of his. It seems to me, as in even the last few months, boxing has been on the downside a little bit because of the inaccessibility to the fighters, the inability to make fights, the inability for the price to be where it should be, and the fact that Saudi Arabia is involved. What do you see coming forward? Because there seems to be a couple good fights on the horizon. Yeah. What do you see the 2025 look like? Well,
I mean, I think, in terms of growing the sport and getting new fans, I think it's in horrendous shape, right? It's not going to do that. Let's be honest, it sucks. It's not promoted. And especially, I think Eddie Hearn is a good promoter, but he doesn't know the U.S. market. And when his fight isn't in the U.S., he completely forgets the U.S. market. The rest of them suck, and they're terrible. And I think that, nobody knows how to promote and nobody knows how to market. Nobody wants to spend money to do those things, and it's not just about calling reporters like me up and saying, hey, do you want to interview Usyk? Do you want to interview Fury? There's more to promoting than just that. And I think back to the heyday of boxing, and there were so many great promotions and people got so much attention for the sport. But having said that, I think there's a lot of good fighters and good fights. I think the talent level we are in, it's cyclical, and we are in an up time in terms of talent. There's a lot of really good fighters. And if you sit there and you just look at the pound for pound list and you look at the top couple of fighters and you say, okay, Usyk, we talked about him earlier, he is an all-time great. How can you not say Terrence Crawford is an all-time great, right? Look at what he's done. How can you not say Naoya Inoue is not an all-time great? Look what he has done. I mean, just those three guys alone, and they have big fights still to come. So, and then there's good, talented young fighters that are on the way up, and we saw Moses Itama, who I think is going to be a really good heavyweight someday. There's a lot of great fighters in the younger, lighter weights. The problem with having these fights in Saudi, it's great that they can use their money to make the big fights, but then the fights are on at a bad time in the U.S. And let me say this, and I was talking to Evan Korn, the PR guy of Top Rank yesterday, and I said, I grew up, I'm 65. I grew up in the 1970s, and we had those anthology shows, Wide World of Sports, CBS Sports Spectacular, NBC Sports Saturday, and there was a lot of fights on Saturday afternoon. People were used to the fights on Saturday afternoon. It's not like people don't watch sports on Saturday afternoon. That college football and college basketball do great, right? But boxing has kind of, over the last 25 years, become a Saturday night thing, and people are out of the habit of watching boxing on Saturday afternoon. So now all of a sudden, you put on a fight on Saturday afternoon, and then you promote it lousy, like this fight was. Nobody's going to know what's happening, and so you're hurting. So you're going to always have the hardcores; they're going to be there, but you're not expanding the base. And I think we're at a time where we should be expanding the base, because there's so many good young fighters coming in, and guys like Beterbiev at the top. I didn't mention him, but there's another one. I have him fourth on my pound for pound list. Another guy on the way up who is going to be considered an all-time great.
Now, why I said Coach Diz, to piggyback off of that, because I will say, Coach, you've leaned more towards MMA for this reason. Yeah. I mean, it got to be to a point where you were just like, man, there's nothing going on. It's like a graveyard. Yeah. And got me more into MMA years ago. Do you see, where do you stay on that? Where do you fall?
I think it's boxing just needs, as Kevin said, someone needs to put more money into it to promote it. Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't see one advertising on any of the United States channels of this fight. Actually, I forgot it was on this weekend until George said something this week. I was like, oh yeah. Just the promoting is not the same how it used to be, getting buying into fighters and stuff like that. Well, they're gonna have to change something if they want to keep on, moving up in this business, because MMA is taking over the world. MMA is taking over the combat sports, and there's really nothing that boxing can do unless they tighten it up. And you saw that they were trying to get the AI, judges, because that's one of the issues too. So hopefully they can get that under control, and then we can have some big fights. People have to, the fighters have to sign, not let the promoters, manage them and try to get them to, pick this fight, to go to this fight, So, and that's the thing that I think will help boxing in the future, if they will allow it. Like, for instance, Top Rank and the Zone going together, that might help.
Well, but think about this. Look what Eddie Hearn's done to Boots. I don't think, you know what I mean? Like, you got a guy like a Boots, put him in a big fight. What are you putting him in Philadelphia against a guy who nobody cares about? The guy,
but he lives in Philly, and he had a huge crowds at both of those fights, right? So
okay.
But the problem is, I think what Eddie Hearns did to Boots, and maybe it was Boots' dad did this to Boots, is, the Virgil Ortiz fight. You make him look like he's afraid. Exactly. I don't believe boxers are afraid. No. Like that level, they are not afraid. But you make them look, you say, we're on the verge of the fight. We're, having the fight agreed. And I talked to Virgil Ortiz's manager, Rick Meridian, at length. And I know kind of what went on in those negotiations. And they basically had agreed to that fight. And then at the last minute, no, the fight has to be at 147. Virgil went to the hospital every time he tried to make 147. You knew he couldn't fight 147. And so they made him look bad. I think that might have been Bozy Ennis more than Eddie Hearn.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I think Bozy was the one that kind of, stepped in there. Eddie, hey, look at Eddie said after the fight that night. Hey, it might be time to move. Eddie was in a delicate situation because the father's the manager and the trainer, and the fighter's standing right there. And Eddie does want to say, yeah, we got to send him to 154 because he's got to talk to the father and the fighter. But he kind of hint. Yeah, I think it's time for him to go up to 154. It's been tough to make the weight, in the fight with Ortiz would be a great, all the things that Eddie was saying. And now, Bozy comes back and, yeah, we'll fight him at 147 when, that's like saying, it's a $500,000 fight and I'll fight him for $25 million. Like you're saying no to the fight. Yes, I will fight Mike Tyson, but pay me $250 million and I'll fight him. okay, you're saying no, you don't want the fight. The money is not there. Well, there's no way that you could say, hey, tell Virgil Ortiz to fight 147, because you know what? You're putting him in the hospital if you do that. And before a punch is thrown, you're putting him in the hospital. And so, he said no by making that claim. And I think that's on Bozy.
Okay. So as what my feelings are in 2024, coming up to 2025, is we need a superstar. We need a superstar to come, bursting onto the scene like the Mike Tysons, like the Evander, like the Riddick Bowe's that come in, even if they're not at the heavyweight division. You need a Floyd Mayweather to ups. Is Boots Ennis or is Terrence Crawford? No, I think Terrence Crawford's on the end of his career, maybe 2 years left. But they need a spark in order to start this back up. I don't know if we see it this year, possibly next year. But this year for 2024 has been a great year for the Zapata Brand podcast and Kevin Iole's YouTube channel. 1 year ago, a couple of weeks ago, was the first time I got to interview with Kevin Iole. And it's been
lucky me. Thank you for that.
Reaching out to
you. No, I'm totally serious.
Well, yeah, lucky you.
Okay. I should say this, right? I am so grateful to you guys. Number one, just because we become good friends over this last year, to have you guys as friends is really something. I got a chance to go to dinner with George when he was in Vegas. It was just unbelievable. But, George has been such a big help to me with my channel, and it's been encouraging, and he's also technically helped me. And, George is an unbelievable guy. And I really am. When I say I'm grateful, I am eternally grateful for everything that you did to help me. And, you guys are doing a great job, and I want to see you succeed in the worst way.
Yeah, well, we've enjoyed this, and we've met so many good people on both sides, whether it be boxers or publicists or stuff like that.
And then you got stuck with Fred.
Well, you know what? Yeah, we did get stuck with Fred, but what I like to do every year is have a Golden Bagel Award. We give it out every year, and this year, someone as deserving for the Golden Bagel Award, and we do have a couple nominees, but this is our pick.
The winner of the 2024 Golden Bagel Award is Fred Sternberg.
What a year for Fred Sternberg. Gets into the Boxing Hall of Fame and gets the 2024 Golden Bagel Award. Congratulations to Fred if you're watching. What a tremendous year for you.
Well, where'd that picture come from? That was a Kevin Iole photo that you stole there.
I'll give you residuals. I'll give you residuals afterwards. I'll give it to you. I'll send you a check there, Kev. But overall, it's just been a great year for us here. We've expanded, and the Jersey Jay-Z's taken off, has got a lot of guests that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for his talent and his ability to get these guests on. And Kevin, you've helped me out so much, hooking me up with certain things. Got to meet Dana White and have a private conversation with him that you were not privy to.
Yeah, how about that, Diz? He freaking left us in the middle of the tour. We're like left behind.
Yeah, and again,
well, hey, next time George goes to Vegas, I'm gonna have to come out there.
We're trying to plan a trip to come out there at the same time. It's just been difficult because someone's got to watch the shop.
What's Jay-Z doing?
Well, we don't want to do that. We're going to keep it out. Jay-Z. We'll keep Jay-Z down in Jersey chasing those drones, because that's what he likes to do in those stupid comic book character shows that he goes to, getting those WWF wrestlers to sign his stuff.
Remember, Jay-Z, that's George and Coach is saying that, not me.
I just shook my head. I didn't say anything.
Oh, believe me, he knows. He goes to those Comic-Cons things. Drives me crazy. Yeah. Yep. But either way, Kev, this year has been a great year. We wanted to extend our sincerest gratitude that you gave us the opportunity 1 year ago to interview you, and we've had just a great relationship for all of us, all three of us, the three Zapata boys, and we appreciate you coming on whenever we need you. You come on. You always come through and have given us the context that we've needed to make this somewhat successful. I don't know if it's yet there. We have a long way to go. Certainly not where on the Kevin Iole level that we want to be at. But either way, guys, we're going to wrap this up somehow. I'm going to head up to the hospital again. I've been taking regular trips there with my kids. I don't know, but these sports drive me crazy. But either way, guys, Kevin, Diz, thanks for coming on. And we look forward to a better 2025. It should be better, but you never know in this world. I know MMA will be good. Either way, guys, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Kevin,
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Have a good one.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.